Hi, all of you awesome scuba divers out there. Welcome to Scuba Diving Magazine, your favorite place for the latest scuba diving news and gear reviews. I'm looking at the new Scubapro G3 dive computer, or to use its full name, the Galileo 3 dive computer, because of its heritage in the Galileo range of dive computers. The G3 is a watch-sized color screen dive computer made for serious active divers, because this has a maximum operating depth of 290 meters in gauge mode, which is pretty impressive. The body itself is made from stainless steel, and it has a chunky dive watch feel to it when it's on the wrist. It even has a diver's bezel that has a really satisfying ratchet to it, and the markings actually glow in the dark, so you can go old school and track your dive time in gauge mode using that bezel, or you can just time how long your roast has been in the oven. It measures 48 millimeters across and is a hefty 17 millimeters deep on the wrist, but that's 1 mil thinner than a Teric, so it's not the chunkiest of computers out there. It has a 4-button user interface, and it comes with a 22 millimeter black silicone watch strap. The high contrast full color TFT LCD display with backlight make for very easy readability in all conditions, and the screen is about 31 millimeters across. It's not a complete circle because it's got this little section down at the bottom. The built-in rechargeable lithium battery provides up to 30 hours per charge, depending on settings and brightness. 3 dive modes inside of this. You've got scuba, gauge, and apnea. In scuba mode, you have advanced settings inside of it. So you have trimix, CCR, closed circuit rebreather, side mount, and PMG, which is predictive multi-gas that I'll talk about in a second. You can input oxygen mixes from 8 to 100% oxygen and helium from 0 to 92%. You can pair up to 8 nitrox or trimix tanks when it's set to that predictive multigas setting, plus a diluent tank in CCR mode, and there's also a pony bottle mode in there as well to handle any recreational or technical diving scenarios. The G3 has 2 versions of the Buhlmann ZHL 16 compartment algorithm. There's one with basic gradient factors, so you can set your high and your low, and you can tailor your decompression, and Scubapro's ADT version with micro bubble predictive multigas. Predictive multigas, when you're diving multiple gas mixes, we'll recommend switching to a better mix if one is available. And you also have PDIS, which is profile dependent intermediate stops that you can switch on or off. PDIS is a fancy way of reducing micro bubble formation. They're a little bit different from deep stops, they're intermediate stops, but the G3 may recommend an intermediate stop on ascent if PDIS is turned on. There's also a sport mode that offers a swim stroke counter, activity counter like a pedometer, and a stopwatch for topside sports. Smart notifications such as emails, text messages, media player controls, and alerts when paired with a compatible iPhone. For more basic information pairing, the G3 has low energy Bluetooth interface that lets you download dives to any iOS or Android device, or PC and Mac. You've got a 3D digital tilt compensated compass that features a top view full compass rose display, so it's really nice and comprehensive. Wireless air integration as well, monitors tank pressure, plus provides true remaining bottom time, your RBT, and allows air consumption to be factored into decompression calculations. There's also an optional heart rate monitor, which is sold separately, that lets you track your heart rate whilst diving or when engaged in topside sports. It unlocks Scubapro's human factor diving in the G3 that can tailor your dive profile to how warm and relaxed you are on the dive, to be more or less conservative based on your body biometrics. So let's see how it arrives and what comes in the box. So this is how it arrives, a little cardboard sleeve and an EVA case with a little handle on the top. If I just slip that off, and yeah, semi-rigid case to protect it. So if you want to use it for storage, or if you want to use it for travel, or just repurpose it altogether, nice little EVA case, zippered opening. And then on the inside, the first thing, if we just have a look at all the stuff in the lid, warning: your G3 is currently in showroom mode, carrying full brightness. Should you like the battery charge to last longer, adjust the brightness level, and it just tells you how to do that. On the inside, you have a extension strap. So if you're diving with a thicker, like 7mm or a dry suit, and you want the watch strap to go over the top of it, you have a little extension strap. It is just made out of the same material. It feels a little bit tougher. You also have a USB cable to extend the charger. There's a little dongle here that you attach onto the computer. So yeah, you get a little extension cable to charge it up. A wrist lanyard. Not entirely sure why you'd need a wristband unless you attach that onto the actual dongle, maybe, to prevent losing it. But yeah, why would you want a wrist lanyard on a wrist computer? Not entirely sure what that is for. You also have a screen guard, so a scratch protector that you put on the screen just to protect it. You also have first book of words is a quick use guide, so that's quite handy. It just, if you're a little bit rusty and you want to get to a certain setting, it just sort of spells out literally press this button, and then if you cycle through, if you keep pressing this button, this is the menu structure that you'll get to, and just a bit more information about the transmitters. You also have a full-on user instruction manual about the smart transmitter, which is this here. I'll show you that in a second. And read first manual about the G3 air integrated dive computers. Just a manual. It's always worth having a good read through the user manuals, because there can be some extra little information in there and extra features that you go, oh, I didn't know it could do that. The dive computer itself, it comes with protective films. I'll take that off and show you in a second. And you also get the Smart Plus Pro, I think it's called, transmitter, which I really like. These are nice and dinky, quite compact compared to most transmitters. So this is typically the size of a wireless air transmitter, and yeah, the Scubapro one is nice and compact. It might be a touch wider, but overall it is nice to have something a little bit more compact, so it's not sticking out on your first stage or a 6-inch hose quite as much. And you do have LEDs on that to let you know your sort of pairing and your tank pressures. And yeah, then you get the foam insert, which feels like it comes out. Yeah, but nothing else on the inside. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the computer itself. So the G3 itself, yeah, when you first see it, it's a fairly chunky dive computer. As I said at the start, it's not the chunkiest of dive computers, but it is a fair size. So if you've got dainty wrists, it is going to stand out. The stainless steel body is nice and strong, but it does have a certain amount of weight to it, and the straps themselves, they almost amplify that because they're light and silicone, and they feel really thin compared to the really like chunky stainless steel body. I love a rotating diver bezel, and it does glow in the dark as well, which is quite useful in low light conditions. The screen itself, now I do like the analog screen. And at first you don't mind the Scubapro logo like front and center. It does start to wear on you over a bit of time. That may just be personal preference. Some of you might not sort of worry too much about it, but I do like the screen. The screen is nice and clear. This right now I have it set to its like dimmest setting, so that it doesn't, well, that is the dimmest setting. The top left hand button always lets you sort of like boost it. It's a bit like a backlight feature, just ups the brightness, and then you can set how long it stays on, or you can just change it with the button press every time to go high or low. So that's quite a nice feature to save a bit of battery. And then you do have a lot of choice on how long it takes for the screen to actually switch off completely. because yeah, when I first got it out, I was quite surprised that it needed recharging like by that afternoon, but it was really set to its brightest setting, and even when the actual watch face disappears, it's like the watch screen is still on, but it's just showing a black screen, so that was using up a lot of power. So do go into the settings when you get it and switch them off. Diving with it, nice clear screen, plenty to see, and easy even in brighter conditions. You might have to tilt your wrist a little bit to avoid any kind of glare, but you get that with any dive computer really. Navigating it, nice and simple. The compass is pretty good as well. It's a bit busy compared to some others. Some others are literally just a needle that just points towards north, with the full like rows. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but it is quite easy to set a waypoint and to follow it and then to switch it off. But all in, yeah, smart dive computer. It feels really well put together. Scubapro equipment always has a nice premium feel to it. Yeah, I can definitely recommend it. I would recommend that heart rate monitor and the wireless air transmitter, just because it unlocks all of the features. If you're not using those kind of features, it kind of just becomes a pretty expensive dive computer, but it's more aimed at, you can get it when you're just starting out and it will be your one and only dive computer, but it's more aimed at someone who does have the aspirations of technical diving. They want those like trimix settings, they want that closed circuit rebreather, they kind of want it all, because it's got everything on the inside. But yeah, the heart rate monitor, the wireless air integration are definitely worth upgrading for it, because then you get that human factor diving and it can really start to tailor your dive profile for you and each individual dive. So who's the G3 made for? It's really made for just any diver. It is a true all-rounder. Everything from apnea to rebreather, trimix, and just everything in between. It has a nice clean screen with a bright display. You can change the brightness setting. In fact, you kind of need to, because I had it set to the brightest setting straight out of the box, as it warned in that leaflet. For the first day, it was set to the highest setting, just so I can see what it was like. And even though it does dim the screen after a while, it still needed charging by that afternoon. It uses quite a lot of battery power, and even when it's dims and doesn't have the full watch screen, it's as if the screen is still on a little bit, so you really do need to go into the settings and switch them off. When I'd set it to the lowest setting with the screen off, and it was just in a drawer, wasn't used very much. I probably checked it every now and then, but yeah, it lasted for a good few days and it only touched the top section of the battery. But yeah, I'd be charging it between dives just to avoid being caught short in the water. One of the nice features that I noticed, that when you navigate through the menus, to save you from having to go in and then back out of each individual section, the G3 gives you a little preview and the current setting for each menu. So if you want to just quickly cycle through and check all of your settings are correct, it's so much faster. You just cycle through it and it just tells you what it's currently set to. The user interface is very easy to figure out. You have several screens on the surface, and then the two buttons on the right hand side just cycle through each of them and it just goes back to the beginning. You just press enter to go in and then access that screen, and then the menu structure, hold it down to come back out. It's pretty easy to get used to that. It's pretty heavy branding on the analog watch face. That's quite usual for Scubapro to put their logo all over their diving equipment, and wearing the computer just day to day, you certainly notice the steel body. It's got a decent amount of weight to it. Now, I don't have an iPhone to pair and use all of the Surface features, so I can't comment on that side of the G3, but it is a smart dive computer. The human factor diving always boosts a dive computer, in my opinion, compared to most computers nowadays that can't take your skin temperature and heart rate into account. Most standalone computers are just that. They're pretty standalone. They don't really know how your own personal body, they don't know what like the water conditions are like, how hard, if there's any current and your heart rate's increasing. They don't know any of that, but with the optional heart rate monitor, the G3 will. It is an additional cost, but it is worth it in my opinion. The G3 retails for $1,300 and 1,300 euros, which has some nice symmetry there. There's also a limited edition anniversary edition, which is just shy of $2,000, which has some new colorways, which does put the G3 in the upper end of the dive computer price market, but it's a technical dive computer with all of the wireless integration features, technical diving modes, the human factor diving, and a handful of surface features as well, which makes it a really fair price in my eyes. The only place that I'm unsure about it is that battery. I'd like to see some longer burn times out of that so that it can really compete with the Garmin's, and maybe a few more choices when it comes to the watch faces. There's a whole menu where you can set the colors of different information on certain screens and personalize the dive screen so that you can read it and just choose your colors. But the Surface Watch is limited at the moment to just the analog or the digital watch face. So I'd like to see a few more watch screens in the future. But let me know what you think about the G3 down in the comments, and head over to scubapro.com to find your local Scubapro dealer, or you can buy directly from Scubapro in certain territories. And head over to scubadivingmag.com to check out our website, and like this video and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.